This is the ROP graphic design project for Craig Yeoman's Period 6 in the school year 2017 to 2018. First, I will be addressing the process with which I tackled all of my projects in graphic design. So all my projects started at the beginning of the year when I had to learn how to use Photoshop. Most of the projects revolved around using Photoshop or Illustrator. If you learn Photoshop, you really know all of them. So I started there, and then from there I started looking at each project in a way that I could make it interesting for me. So oftentimes that meant tackling literature or songs that I like. And then from there I oftentimes would try to envision or figure out what kind of message I wanted to convey and how I could do that based on oftentimes looking at other people's pieces just out on the internet and how I can convey that emotion. So then I would generally create it, look at it and see if that hit the mark, and then from there I would produce 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drafts. Oftentimes the first draft would come really quickly, and then as I would develop more drafts I would actually go back to the first one and realize that that one was the best in my opinion, and that's generally how most of my projects went. I spent the majority of my time in this class waiting for things to open and close because these computers are slow. And then from there, oftentimes I would look back at the project and see if I could change 1 or 2 things here or there, and then see if I could essentially subvert the expectations of the project, add something a little special. Oftentimes that did not work. And then from there, oftentimes I just submit my work and see how it compared to my classmates, and that was a joy. For the first project I want to analyze, I wanted to look at my Principles of Design project. So you can see in the first example that I used the red on black and the white in order to create somewhat of a contrast between the red and black. It looks really nice. For the second design, I wanted to look at the actual aesthetics of Sam's name and how it can be 3 syllables, Samuel. For the third one, you can see I used the repetition of his name and then the break from that repetition in the bottom to sort of create an imbalance in the design. In these last 3, you can see that I went with almost a Rorschachkian design, with a use of negative space and positive space in order to use the white, which is actually the negative space, to almost create a positive space like a stamp out of the black. And I did that in all 3 designs. In the third example, I used black out of white, though. The second project I want to analyze is my Plakatsteel project. The point of the design of this project was to use flat colors in the Plakatsteel style. Flat colors to create a somewhat simple design that gets across an advertisement. So I did an advertisement for a production of King Lear by the SLVHS drama, with an allusion to a line in the play when the fool says that King Lear's crown is essentially worth nothing more than half an eggshell cracked on his head. I like this third project because we were absolutely handed lemons with it. We decided on using the movie title of My Wife Was 10 Cats in a Trench Coat, and the whole class had to go with that. And we decided to go with the film noir style, and I'm proud of this one because I feel like I emulated the style very well. I'm especially pleased with the use of red in order to contrast with the black, and then the white text which overlays on both really well. Also with the cigarette smoke from the cat and Aiden's mouths, and how they came together, and I feel like that looks pretty darn good. This fourth project is pretty simple. It's just text. I used size of text, balance of the page, reflection of text, and repetition, in addition to color, in order to sort of create a pretty cohesive piece that reads pretty well and puts emphasis on the words that are emphasized in the song. So I think it came across really well. This final project is my line cut project, and I'm proud of it just because of the amount of work that went into it. Earlier you saw all the work that was poured into this. And then when we finally scanned them on and only were able to scan at 300 dpi, it still came across pretty well when I converted the colors over to red and gold and then added the text, which I think looks pretty good and fits the image really well. I'm actually really proud of this project. I think it came out really well, and I think the use of color in this really worked. I think my biggest takeaway from graphic design this year is just slowing down and doing projects more in depth and not just accepting that the first draft is going to be the best, even though oftentimes it was, but at least having the open mind to consider making other drafts following that. That was my project. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe.